We did it. 1 million subs, baby, we did it! Let's fucking go! Shout out to my managers for the 1 mil balloons, and shout out to my mom for the really adorable ones. I'd say congrats. I don't think this is a 1 million celebration video. We'll figure something out. If you got ideas, let me know. I'm gonna keep this intro short and sweet. I watched 4 more disturbing documentaries. They Called Me Mostly Harmless, Tell Them You Love Me, Voyeur, and Holy Hell. I don't really know how to feel about these, but enjoy. Wait, did I say first doc? I meant word from our sponsor.
I just checked my bank account. Best Buy taking money, what is that about? Netflix taking fees at a 10 amount. I'm losing track of bills, I done signed up for these deals. I don't wanna argue refunds in a spat about. Sponsor of the video is Rocket Money. How convenient helping out my pockets for me. I can see more Franklins when they sock it to me. They canceled the subscription, any hassles with commission. Recently the refund promised that they got it for me. Over 500 million is what they did for customers canceling the subscription. Add it up to 740 for the year is what they saved. When Rocket Money knocked out unwanted payments. Now I stopped stressing, checking savings. They started out chirping, now they raving. Hitting higher bills, watch them caving. Can't have my money negative like Sage Lit. Keep my app on hand like bracelets. Over 5 million members, just embrace it. Go to rocketmoney.com/MrGG or click the link in the description to get started for free. You can also unlock even more features with premium. That is rocketmoney.com/MrGG. And thank you, Rocket Money, for sponsoring this video.
What can I say? The name drew me in for no specific reason. The definition of voyeur is a person who gains sexual pleasure from watching others when they are naked or engaged in sexual activity. Google gives us the very mature example of he stood transfixed, a voyeur feasting on the swell of her buttocks. Yeah, I'll take fat ass for 200, Alex. Maybe I've just been infected with TikTok brain, but some of these documentaries can get very dull. Let me break you in real quick. Gerald Foos ran a motel for years, and he would watch everybody who stayed and everything they did. And aside from being a Hall of Fame perv, don't argue with me, he's earned it. What's your Mount Rushmore? He's also just kind of a liar. Big boy ego. I'm talking stretchy waistband and all. And also just kind of a dope. The way he speaks about this legacy of his. I mean, he did this for over 3 decades. And this wasn't with cameras. This was some good old-fashioned peeping, like Meemaw and Peepaw used to do. He basically built a space in the roof of this motel and put fake air vents where he can patrol and check what everyone's doing like he's flipping channels. What bothers me, I have no clue how a bed that looked up at a ceiling vent never saw eyes looking back at them? A glimmer in his glasses? Oh, you guys about to fuck? This man never had to sneeze? I also don't know what he did to have people just not hear him moving around. I can hear when there's a squirrel on my roof. Buddy's about 200 squirrels over the minimum detection threshold. I'd like to just call him a liar for the entire story, but that's where Gay Talese comes in. A journalist that finally gets Gerald to tell a story and who admits that he's known about Gerald for decades now. Because Gerald wrote to him back in the day telling him what he was doing. Going so far as to invite Gay to the motel and have him watch along, like a once-removed cuck. So the only binding thing we really got is Gay's word that he saw the setup, and that they watch people have sex together. I do believe the guy did it, but a lot of his claims come into question throughout the doc. Now, why did I say that this was dull when you're probably edging your seat on the edge of your seat right now? This guy's already fucking with my psyche. Well, we focus on Gerald, but we also very much put focus on Gay and the journalism side of it. Looking at stuff, writing about it, incredible. That part's not even bad. The worst part is that we just live with Gerald for a bit, and he's just doing current day Gerald shit at his house. He's bragging to us about stuff he has. He's constantly getting paranoid about the story breaking. Just him and his wife and a quiet, sad home watching the news. You're just sat there like, where are we going with this? Why are we spending all this time with him? To show the type of dude he is? He's weird and a dingus. I thought we all understood that already. Like, this guy's backstory is having his sexy ass, fine ass, thick ass aunt be his sexual awakening. He started peeping in our window and was like, damn, those are some big boobs. I should build a motel in 20 years and do this professionally. He has so many stories, apparently documented everybody he ever watched in this fat ass binder. And just some of his quotes explain the type of dude he is. Like, he viewed himself and the voyeur He refers to himself in third person as the Voyeur. He considers them separate entities, which, brain things aside, that kind of just screams to me that I don't want to take accountability for being a whole ass weirdo committing crimes, but I will take the recognition of being one of the most efficient weirdos at committing crimes. Quotes like, "Nobody will be able to do what I did." Yeah, I think we would call that ideal. Gerald wanted to tell this story. That's why he reached out to Gay all those years back. My guy was somehow running a flawless operation, and everything was going too well. He was upset that he was gonna get away with it. It's like the meme of the dude in the corner saying, "They don't know I spy on people fucking through homemade vents." By the way, his wife knew about everything. She was with him back then. She would bring him snackies while he was doing this shit. You shouldn't be out of this conversation either, but it bothered me how long the doc took to mention masturbation as a part of the equation, which is a crazy sentence to say, but I was sat here listening to everything and had the very sane thought, is he going in or not? Which oddly made it crazier to me, because how's this dude just busting fat nuts in the attic all day? Not to get too crude, because I wouldn't do that. But like, where's he nutting? Does the ground just look like a fucking candle at this point? Like, I was trying to envision the go-to stance to do this. First with him, which I did not like, so I swapped me in there. Fucking Ready Player One, baby. And I can't get anywhere. Like, I know he wasn't just fucking power stance balls over the vent. That nut's unpredictable. Shit's gonna look like Strangers Chapter 1 down there. I tried sitting down with my legs extended. Probably felt the most normal, but I need back support for that. That shit hurts. Crisscross applesauce. If that was the case, that man deserves jail time for that alone. I mean, I hate to say it, if I was a betting man, always split sevens, double down on 11, I'd bet he was just on his knees. Maybe a little cushion to fend off the arthritis. Either that or like goblin statue stance. Depends how limber he was. Have I talked about this for too long? I'm just trying to match this man's energy, because may I inform you, he used to plant dildos and nudie mags in the room so his clientele could hypothetically walk in, see it, and be like, what the heck? Who would use these, right, honey? I mean, come on. Get out of here. He says he put a suitcase in there with $1,000 just to see what happens. This man was DIYing what would you do in his perf perch. This man's insane. He allegedly saw murder, which because of his earlier intervention was kind of indirectly his fault. And he didn't do shit. He just watched it happen. He didn't call the cops. He didn't run out his dungeon and bang on the door. He didn't blow his cover, blow his load. This man's useless. The fucking guy says, I was watching it just thinking, let her go. Come on, man. And he ends with, it made me so sick that I quit observations for the night. Oh no, you poor thing. You saw a murder and gooning just wasn't the same? I could shed a tear. If you're curious about the lies, by the way, apparently his dates were so jacked up in that records book, they couldn't find any evidence of that murder in that hotel, even though the police showed up with the body left there. There should be records of that. And apparently he had sold the hotel so much earlier than what he said. So by the end of it, Gay was getting cooked left and right. Why are you talking to this moron who's lying about everything? Why are you writing a book about him? So much so that Gay publicly disavowed his own book after he was released. Later on, Gay did discover, oh, he sold it to his friend Earl, and Gerald still had full access to it. That's why he still had records for those dates, because it just morphed into a goon sesh. But Gerald left that part out because he didn't want to associate his friend with it, which is like the only lie I kind of understand. It's one thing to reveal yourself to be this, but maybe your homie wasn't looking for that notoriety like you were.
Nobody ever will be able to do what I did.
Gerald's so silly because he's reading stories about himself like, why? They're over here calling me a creep, saying what I did was disgusting. What the hell were you expecting, Gerald? That you would be revered for watching me beat off in my motel bed? I was in a goon sesh and I didn't even know it. That's not cool. Anyway, I think I'm just having too much fun with this story at this point. The dog's fine, rather slow. It is a disturbing thing, right? I know I'm joking about it, but I don't get to do that often in this series. But the doc itself is just not disturbing to me. I think because the guy's such a goof, I'm not sitting here thinking, wow, this guy's disgusting. How could he do such a thing for so long as well? And his wife just encouraging it too? It's more like this fucking weirdo lived a weirdo's dream life, and he wants to claim it, yet deny it at the same time. Why are we giving this man the mic? Next doc. They called him mostly harmless. They called me Mostly bored. I don't think I've ever just straight up not liked one of the docs I've seen in this series. The one I was most critical of was probably Goodnight Sugar Babe for being just a bit unorganized, amateur-like, and just tasteless in some parts. But that story, as heartbreaking as it is a roller coaster of emotions and has so much to discuss. This story is just not that. This story does not warrant a near hour-and-a-half doc. The doc is about a mystery man that was found deceased, extremely malnourished, in a tent off a hiking trail. And the tent had food, and some pages with what appeared to be the scribbles of a madman. No signs of foul play, and no identification on who this man was. And the only other people that seem to have come across this man in life were fellow hikers on the same trail he was on. So we follow the story, piece everything together, and exhaust every source until we get an answer. And I won't spoil it quite yet, give me a second. A lot of people seem to like this one, and I can see why. There's a compelling story in there, but I just caught myself getting more and more frustrated as time went on, audibly saying at one point, who cares? All this made me think was, you know who you should hear this story from? Nexpo, Nick Crowley, Rainbot, Tuv, Wendigoon. I would have rather watched either of them talk about this for 20 to 40 minutes than this bloated sack. I think the problem is that our main storytellers are these two Facebook moderators of groups who were trying to figure out who Mostly Harmless was. That was his trail name. Hikers give themselves nicknames, I guess. Grow up. You're glorified walkers. I'm kidding, but the two moderators don't like each other. So they end up becoming these two beefing Facebook groups. A true modern day dilemma. Beefing Facebook groups, just sending AI images of Jesus to each other to distract the other side. It's like throwing a fucking steak at a dog, a pit bull trying to break in. They're both trying to discover who this dead fella was. And no offense to these two women, the work they did with so little resources is very impressive. It's reminiscent of the amateur detectives in Don't Fuck with Cats. The difference being, these are just not likable people. One of them more likable than the other. I'm not gonna say which is which, but we detour so often to just discuss petty squabbles within the groups. There was a point where I legit thought, have we just stopped talking about the guy entirely? Did I change channels? If you cut out the mods' lives, their battles with one another, and the struggles they personally dealt with trying to uncover this mystery or like being attacked by people on the internet, this is making me sad. We would wrap this up quickie poo pie. And the last thing that I very much disliked was the ending. I'm gonna spoil that now. Through testimony, photos, growing exposure, DNA tests, and much more, they discover our mystery man is a fella named Vance Rodriguez. Now keep in mind, people have been rather enamored with this mystery man and his story. And there was a lot of sympathy there because this poor guy seems to have starved to death when he had food. And he could have also, hypothetically, walked a bit further than where he was and asked for help from the public if he needed it. It was a tale of tragedy. And so many theories flew around. One example being that he had cancer and he didn't want to trouble anyone, so he just went off the grid to walk this extremely long trail and pass away. And pretty much everybody they interviewed who met him on that trail had nothing but nice things to say about him. One of them so touched that they felt like they missed out on this lifelong bond with this man. So they discover who he is. And he's kind of just a dude. Worked in tech, from Louisiana, and apparently was a serial abuser in his relationships. Multiple women came out with similar allegations of him, abusing them, and just not being a very nice person. So we had that now. Then we dug into his childhood a bit, and it's assumed that he had a falling out with his family relatively early, trying to disconnect from the family at 17. Apparently shot himself at 16 in the stomach, trying to end it all at one point, but changed his mind after the gun went off and managed to survive. Through the doc, his family really didn't agree to speak on much, so people kind of paired their silence with what appeared to be a man with a fair amount of trauma, and they made their own story from that. And through it all, we really didn't get an answer as to why he chose to hike this trail. Why he died. Was it a decision to end his own life? Was it accidental? None of these questions are answered. It's all just assumptions from the crowd that had been following this story, which isn't that annoying. It's like an Unsolved Mysteries type beat. But what drove me nuts is that, listen, I get allegations are allegations. Multiple women, but allegations nonetheless. If the allegations are true, the ending to this doc just gets a little too cheery for me. A little too, yeah, he beat the shit out of women, but when I dapped him up by that one tree that one time, I was like, that's a good guy. Don't get me wrong, everyone speaks on the allegations, and most people condemn that behavior. One person says something along the lines of, I don't think it's crazy to look at Mostly Harmless and then look at Vance Rodriguez. I think it's one thing to be compelled by the story of this mystery man who befriended every person he came across, and who ended up dying in what appears to be a rather tragic death. But then also look at Vance Rodriguez and remember, that guy sucked. He was a bad person. Which, okay, separating the art from the artist, in the darkest way that term has been used, but that was just one guy who said that for like 22 seconds of that ending bit. I obviously don't think Vance should be revered in the slightest if the allegations are true, which we can do about fuck all at this point to confirm them, but finishing the doc, we hear a damn song dedicated to him that one of the hikers who met him wrote, and he's playing and he's like, "Whoa, hiking." Everyone's giving their sign off, throwing Vance some compliments. A nice old lady says, "I bet he's looking down at us right now." I think I would take the under on that one. And the doc touches on this parasocial relationship, building up this person to be something he's not. And even the people who outright just didn't believe the women's allegations because they were just so dialed into this guy and his story. Nobody wanted the bad ending, obviously, but we end happy and cozy. And that bothers me. I get it's traditionally nice to end on a high note. I think you still could have done that, but it's okay to have the story end in a bittersweet fashion because that is the reality. Allegedly. And if anyone gives a damn about what I think happened based on the doc, I think this was a very troubled guy who faced himself at one point, struggling with his family issues and also with the things he had done beyond that, so he just wanted to walk away from it all, disconnect as much as he physically could, and let life guide him for a bit. And I think he knew he would never return to his regular life when he started that walk. This was his escape, but also his penance. So it's not shocking to me that everybody who met him on that trail had a positive interaction with him. And eventually, as difficult as it sounds, he ended up starving himself. Also, imagine just trying to anonymously die because he apparently purposely avoided leaving a paper trail and then having the world hyper-focus on you for a bit and everything associated with you. That's gotta kinda suck. I don't recommend this doc to anybody, and it is far from disturbing. Honestly, should have been yoinked from this list, but after watching it, there's no way I wasn't gonna talk about it. Next doc. Oh boy, I get to talk about this one. This is just gonna be me explaining a bunch of shit and then getting mad for the latter half. Fair warning. So there's an interesting layer added when a doc somehow includes an interview with the perpetrator in question, because they almost never take that interview for the doc unless they're crazy, are fully convinced they are innocent, or are fucking crazy. It's obvious, or at least it should be. The doc's gonna make you look terrible because what you did, what everybody else saw, was deemed terrible and or criminal. But alas, I introduce you to Anna Stubblefield, a professor of philosophy who, because of her mother, grew up working with a lot of people with disabilities, learning about them, caring for them. She is the woman you will learn to slowly hate. The doc takes a second to get there. I can see some people bailing on this one early, and I really wouldn't blame you. We're fed these breadcrumbs, and then at the drop of a dime, we're driving straight uphill. And we don't stop. I don't know how much we could realistically chop off though, because I do think it's really important to clearly set the stage for Derek Johnson, a nonverbal man with cerebral palsy. I mean, other than that, this documentary is controversial. The case is controversial. And I think a decent part of that centers around facilitated communication, a technique used to help, for example, someone with autism be able to clearly communicate what they're trying to say with supported typing. So in this technique, the facilitator helps stabilize their arm and basically guides them to what letter they are trying to click, forming words, sentences, thoughts. We learn about this and see examples of it early in the doc, and I'll admit, I thought, that's incredible. What a beautiful thing. Anna eventually begins to work with Derek using this technique. And Derek not only begins to communicate through typing, but he excels, and he excels rapidly. Thing is, which we learn later in the doc, facilitated communication is a scientifically discredited technique. And there have been many controversies surrounding this technique. And in the doc, we're told by Anna the things Derek would type out. In fact, the keyboard she used logged everything that was typed into it, so we're often shown exactly what was typed in when she is describing specific moments. So through FC, Derek becomes introspective, being very blunt about his disability, his desires, racism. It's damn near poetic. He starts typing, albeit with typos, grammar issues, but with what he's saying, he sounds like an author. which Anna is, and I hate that I have to make it seem like I'm picking on Derek here. Fuck you for that, by the way, Anna. Derek started going to literature classes. He wrote an entire speech for a panel. Remember, Derek has been nonverbal for 30 plus years. It is incredibly difficult for Derek to walk. To communicate that he's hungry, he might start banging on the fridge. Sometimes he'll start hurting himself, possibly out of frustration. He's fully cared for by his family and loved by his family, and they clearly want what's best for him. But even with the possibility shown of assisted typing, it's difficult to read. Just knowing I am being heard makes me hopeful, but hoping is not going far. Mother's hoping goes not for naught. Hope is functioning, but going deeper in freedom. I believe going beyond hoping, just not limit hoping. But hoping is not just hoping, it gets better. Genuine hoping means juggling justice with hope. Quote Derek. I would like to add, nobody was able to replicate these results with Derek. His brother and his mother could not get Derek to type out anything, not one word. But Anna somehow got him to write naught. Even much later in the doc, Dr. Howard Shane, the director of the Center for Communication Enhancement at Boston Children's Hospital, spent about 3 hours with Derek and had no luck. In hearing all of that, you might be thinking, well, how the hell did the family not raise any concerns when Anna started saying that he's doing all this shit? How did they just buy into all this? And the sad answer is, why would they not want to believe it? Derek's brother always believed he was special and that there was more to him than what was on a doctor's note. So they're hearing all this amazing news and progress from someone with some credentials, and from what they're told, Derek is happy. He is elated that he finally has this outlet, but that's only one issue. Anna's telling of the next part is hard to listen to. This is a sick woman who is delusional and predatory, and she smiles through all of the retelling. She develops a relationship with Derek, keeps it a secret for a bit, and then she tells us in detail about how, point A to point B, starting with a kiss, Derek apparently typing in to ask to touch her breast, and yes, eventually sex. I'm sure you all understand how consent is an issue here, because the only consent present is on that keyboard that Anna has been helping Derek type on. I feel for the family so much here because you can just feel the anger boil up when they talk about it, but they restrain themselves so well. Because you see red starting to form, but they're still just trying to calmly finish telling you this story. And who would even think it would get to this? This crime, where Anna would later go on trial for 2 counts of first-degree aggravated sexual assault. And a lot of things piss me off in the doc besides the obvious that I just stated. So, can I just say, Anna describes falling for him because of how intelligent he is, how he has a way with words. Look at all this smart shit this guy's typing. Wow, this guy's good. So good that I'm willing to break up my already existing marriage and family for it. It's like the fucking Obama meme. The low-key racism, by the way, is crazy, because through more examples, it comes off like Anna's trying to be this white savior, telling the family, you know what? Derek doesn't like gospel music anymore. He likes classical. Turn this off. Derek doesn't like beer. He only drinks wine now. Oh, Derek really wants to take this African-American literature course. Also, by the way, I have written a book on race relations and anti-black oppression, but he really wants to take this class and flex his thoughts. And the worst offense to me in that regard, very early on, she decides to ask Derek what he would like to be called. Because, I don't know, what if he doesn't like the name Derek? I don't know if you know this, but none of us had a say in that, Anna. But when asked this, Derek apparently types in D-Man. He wants to be called D-Man. Pronounced Deman, as Anna says it.
I called him Deman from there.
And she tells the family this and whatnot, and she refers to him throughout the entire interview as Deman. And after we learn everything that happened, it is aggravating having to sit here and listen to her still do that. Calling this mother's son that you assaulted a name that is not the name she gave him. Almost like still claiming this fucked up ownership of him. Anna was found guilty on both counts, sentenced to 12 years in prison. A happy ending? Hardly. Anna appealed her conviction and the panel decided in her favor, ruled that her defense was limited because court dismissed any testimony related to facilitated communication. I mean, can you fucking blame them for doing that? She just served 2 years, 2 of her 12 years. She's out now. Would you look at that? The bad ending. Apparently, at least she'll never work in teaching again, but still a shitty, bitter, shitty ending. But you know what? Should we cue up a sonata dedicated to Anna's accomplishments real quick to have everyone sign off? I can get it started if you want. If you want to just No? Okay, just checking. I don't know if you guys wanted to take note. Okay, I gotcha. This doc is infuriating, and it is disturbing to see this woman not only be capable of this, but do it with such utter confidence, and even tell the audience, I didn't do anything wrong. Next doc. Cult documentaries do a phenomenal job of thoroughly upsetting you. Like, I think of Keep Sweet, Pray, and Obey. That's a documentary that will not only piss you off, but if you make it to the end, yeah. That doc is far more disturbing than this doc. Because Holy Hell is a bit different. I do think it's an interesting documentary, made by an ex-member of this very cult, and the footage he has is incredible. I think that alone does wonders for this, right? We're often subjugated to just photos and testimony for stuff like this, but Will Allen has damn near everything that's discussed recorded, aside from the crimes. Well, actually, not entirely. So in the 80s, Will finds a group called the Buddha Field, filled with these happy, joyous buckos finding spear as a tornado warning outside / severe. Can you hear that? If I end my career talking about this stupid fucking doc, I'm gonna be very upset. Anyway, filled with happy, joyous buckos finding spirituality, dropping their egos. They were hippies without the drugs and sex. Boring. So this group was led by Michelle. That was his name, one word, like Bono, Seal. I don't know how else to describe him except look at him. Oddly enough, by the end of the doc, my feelings on the guy were not about how despicable and disgusting he was, but more so that he was a fucking loser, a dweeby bum. And I honestly think that hurts him more than calling him out for his crimes. We get our testimony from ex-members of the cult, and let me try and describe what this is. Michelle eventually got everyone to live together, and they would attend these weekly meetings where he'd be like, people with egos? Fuck that. They would attend weekly hypnotherapy sessions with Michelle. Michelle loved ballet and would have them do that and do it right. And there would be these ceremonies where he would give people the direct experience of God. They'd meet him and he'd be like, God. And then they would be drunk off life. And we see the footage for this. They're all there loopy and shit, giggly gooses being like, wow, I can't believe God's inside of me right now. I don't know what other way to put it. Michelle would be fed, massaged, praised. Like most of the people actually hated ballet, especially because Michelle was an asshole. He would shit down anybody's throat that was messing up the choreography. He was a dick. And they like acknowledge that. They're like, this guy sucks, but even though they'd be crying during ballet practice, something they don't care about at all, they still loved him because cult. He would make fun of sex a lot. He claimed it was a low energy. So he told everybody in the group to abstain from it. He would talk about it like, have you seen people having sex? Blah, blah, blah. Am I right? Shut the fuck up, Michelle. This man wears a Speedo to brunch. Everybody in the group like rubs each other for good energy. He gets massaged in Speedos. He takes piggyback rides from big strong men. You can't convince me this horny ass dude is anti-sex. Like everybody in the group is in great shape, good looking. I didn't get picked, did you? Like when I first started watching the doc and they're all on this beach frolicking and rubbing each other and hugging each other, I was gonna be like, man, there's gonna be a lot of fucking going on. And then they said that, and I was like, no, something's incorrect. They ended up telling us, like, there was secretly a lot of fucking going on. Sorry, Michelle. Fucking spoiler alert, dude. Don't know if you got that far. Anyway, the curtain is being slowly raised, right? And even with everyone in the palm of his hand, I just kept thinking that it had to be sex for him. Right? Is that not always the base for shit like this? It's sex. And right on cue, we discover what Michelle would do during his hypnotherapy sessions. He would talk to them, help them receive these breakthroughs, cry about their childhood, realize why they feel the way they feel, and then be like, get naked. How are you supposed to be vulnerable in front of God if you can't even take off your undies in front of me? And then he'd tell him, like, you know, just do what feels natural. Like, come over here. Get on your knees. Do whatever comes to mind. Totally up to you. He did this to multiple men in the group. So yes, he was assaulting members of the cult, even though some of them made it very clear that they didn't want to do that. And when they would say shit like that, he'd go back to hypnotherapy, make them feel something again, and then be like, all right, let's try again. Keep in mind, they would pay for these sessions. Michelle had moved, changed his name, and his followers would continue to follow. He encouraged everyone to detach from their families. No TV, no radio. Someone would buy a dog, and he was like, dogs, that's low energy shit, return it. I don't know what was wrong with pets. One of the members got pregnant, but kids, low energy, and he forced one of them to get an abortion, forced another member to encourage her to do so, or else they would be kicked out too. He told one of the girls to tell everyone that she had cancer so he could pretend to cure it. Michelle was a real piece of shit, and get this, he used to want to be an actor. He had a small role in Rosemary's Baby, and guess what? He was a failed bum-ass bum actor.
Every man is a possible catch.
In fact, rumors started to float around that he used to be a gay porn star. What? This guy? Tell me a failed actor decided to do porn. It's impossible. Ugh! Jesus Christ, you didn't have to show me the clips. I would have believed you. He was absolutely a gay porn star, and they showed him dipping his hog in a mouth like gerbil water. This went on for 21 years. And he tried his hardest to hold on to the group. Controversy after controversy, people started writing letters, people started coming forward about what was happening to them, and he just kept trying to sniff out who was still down for him. People eventually threatened to press charges unless he stopped what he was doing, and for some stupid reason, they helped him relocate to Hawaii, being like, "You're not gonna do this anymore, right?" And he was like, "Promise, Scout's honor." 5 years later, Michelle, who changed his name to Andreas, and then he was now going by Ragey, had a following again. Some of the people were OG members who never left, and some people were newly recruited in Hawaii, and they looked like a bummy tourist group, but that's not my business. They confront him in the dock, and it's not confrontational, I guess. They approach him, and I think Michelle is fearful of what may happen in this moment, but he doesn't like start yelling to the group about what Michelle did or what he's doing, because frankly, that's not gonna do anything. He knows these people were all brainwashed already. Some of them are, he recognizes them, you know, they used to be friends. He doesn't sock Michelle in the jaw, which would do something, but that would be temporary, might catch a charge. But that's where we end. We get some updates and that's that. No criminal charges. I'm almost positive he's still doing this. Fucking the end. That's it. So if you're in the Hawaii area and you see this man walking around with his mini army, I don't know, nothing's happened to him since. So the unfortunate reality for cults is, what can you do? Different groups tried getting involved. People tried speaking up, and even with all of that, you could tell that a lot of people just didn't want to leave because, I mean, they didn't really know much outside of it. The people that did leave felt like they'd been lied to all their lives. Like they had to start anew, like they didn't know what this was. They just felt fish out of water. I'm assuming the people in the cult probably didn't want to feel that. Disturbing? Yes. Once you watch enough cult documentaries though, nothing really surprises you anymore. I would really just recommend this documentary if you wanted to be a fly on the wall for something like this because of all the footage that he has. But other than that, I just kind of fucking hate this guy. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, please subscribe because we hit 1 million subs, baby. I don't have to say that anymore. I witnessed it live on stream with a handful of you, and that was a lot of fun and very emotional, and I cried, and it was lovely, and I'm very happy about it. Thank you guys for all the support. I appreciate it more than you will ever understand. This is all I've ever wanted to do, so I'm very happy to proceed doing it. Thank you so much, patrons. We recently watched Killer Clouds from Outer Space over on Patreon for a live watch. My patrons are lovely. They are here. Thank you guys so very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Gamer subs, 10% off, code Mista GG, and as always, I am Mista GG, and I am out.